Hello, Namaste. Today, the world is facing numerous challenges like the climate change, food and nutritional insecurity, technical changes, urbanization, which are very complex and multifaceted. Today, I am going to brief you about a particular Indo-German collaborative research project which addresses the issue of urbanization. As all of us know, the expansion of urban landscape into the surrounding rural areas is a global phenomenon occurring at a rapid pace in the recent past. Bengaluru is no exception to it. When you look at the population of this Bengaluru, which was just 0.8 million during the year 1951, crossed 13 millions in recent time. So, Bengaluru provides itself is a best case for understanding the patterns and the consequences of such urbanization. So, urban invasion into rural space may affect the dynamics of agriculture, ecology and socio-economic system in rural-urban interface to varying degrees. So, in this background, to address the issue of urbanization, I, Dr. J.M. Gaddi, working as professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics, University of Agricultural Sciences, and also serving as the coordinator for this very innovative Indo-German collaborative research project funded by the Department of Biotechnology in India and the DFG in Germany. A project is being undertaken entitled The Rural-Urban Interface of Bengaluru, a Space of Transition for Agriculture, Economics and Society, was initiated and launched on 19th of November 2016 as the first phase, and the second phase of it was launched on 19th of March 2021. And as I mentioned, this is a collaborative research project between University of Agricultural Sciences Bengaluru and two German universities, that is University of Kassel and George August University of Göttingen. And this project was earlier coordinated by our beloved teachers and renowned economists Dr. Chinnappa Reddy and Dr. K.B. Umesh, who was the former professor and university head and the director of research, University of Agricultural Sciences, Bengaluru. And upon his superannuation, I have been made as the coordinator of this Indo-German project. In India, it is a consortia of 7 institutions and universities. I mentioned them, that is NIANP, that is National Institute for Animal Nutrition Physiology, which was headed by Dr. P.K. Malik in Bengaluru, and the second institute is Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment, that is ATRI Bengaluru, which addresses the issue of landscape effects on pollinator community and pollination services, headed by Dr. Sobhadra Devi, and another institute at Bengaluru, that is APU, that is Ajim Premji University, headed by Seema Purushottam and Danya Bhaskar. The another institute at the Bengaluru, that is Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISEC, which addresses the issue of structural and functional attributes of field margin vegetation towards the sustainable social ecological development of rural urban Bengaluru, headed by Sunil Nautiyal, and Institute of Wood Science and Technology, having a project on spatio-temporal land use pattern and the relationship between green areas and the biophysical features, headed by Dr. Divakar, and the another institute at Trivandrum, that is Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, addresses the issues relating to structural and functional characterization of cropping systems using hyperspectral and 3D laser scanning data and big data analysis. And to coordinate the activities of all these 7 Indian institutions and the universities, and also to coordinate with the German counterpart, we are having the coordination unit at the Department of Agricultural Economics, and I have been serving as the coordinator for this coordination unit. Coming to the 8 projects which are in operation at University of Agricultural Sciences Bengaluru included, one at IABM, that is headed by Dr. M.R. Girish, who taken up the issues of effects of urbanization on value chains and livelihoods of farmers and other stakeholders, especially by taking the case of poultry and sheep and goat value chains, while soil and water quality as well as the impact of urbanization on soil properties, water and crop productivity, based at Soil Science Department, headed by Dr. Satish and Dr. Mudalgiriyappa, while the urbanization induced changes in agro ecosystems is based at the Department of Forestry and Environment Science, headed by Dr. Krishnamurthy, while dietary diversification, nutritional status and life cycle patterns among lower middle class households in rural urban interface of Bengaluru is headed by Dr. Usha Ravindran, being placed at the Department of Food Science and Nutrition. And another social science project is based at the Department of Agriculture Extension, presently headed by Dr. Sivaramu, addresses the issue of attitude, time or utilization and socio-economic changes of households. And in addition to these 6 projects at UAS Bangalore, in the Department of Agriculture Economics, we are having one project entitled Food and Nutritional Security at different stages of urbanization. The main activities of the coordination unit is to communicate within the consortia and with the German counterparts, and also organizing from time to time project meetings and events at all levels and locations, and also monitoring and reporting the work progress and the financial records, and also content management of the project website, including communication with the Indian universities and the authorities to obtain clearance for any of the project activities, because we have to take sometimes the clearance certificate from the ethical committee, and also raising the awareness for and supporting equal opportunity and early career support measures, and lastly compilation of the final report and other follow-up activities. Thus, these diverse organizations and the institutions addresses the several issues such as impact of urbanization on agricultural production system, flow of ecosystem services and food security issues, value chains, socio-economic changes and the adaptation measures that one could be taken up so as to sustain the agricultural system in the country. So, such is being the importance and the core issues of the present project. The guiding questions which have been chosen by the Indian and the German counterparts includes: how do the agriculture production system and household structure change at different stages of urbanization, followed by how does the urban expansion affects the ability of regional ecosystems to provide food and other ecosystem services, and how to exchange or how do these exchanges between agro ecosystems, producers and consumers change as urbanization advances, and lastly how do social and ecological systems interact where the rural and urban livelihoods, traditions, aspirations and forms of land use are going to clash with each other. Thus, so as to address all these questions, the study area and the sampling framework I am going to explain now. The project is mainly concentrated in the sphere of this Bengaluru rural urban interface, and this has been broadly divided into 2 transects, that is north transect and south transect. And the north transect, by taking Vidhan Saudha, the center of city, as the reference point, consists of 5 kilometers width and 50 kilometer length, wherein this has been further divided into 3 gradients: the area which is closer to the center of the city as urban, and the area which lies away from the city towards that upper part of this Bengaluru map when we take as the rural, and in between we are having the transition area. Similarly, the southern transect is consisting of a polygon of 300 square kilometers, again divided into rural, transition and urban gradients depending upon 2 criterion, that is URI, that is urban rural index, and the survey stratification index, which have been finalized by Hoffman during the 2017 so as to have the built up area and the survey stratification index so as to categorize into 3 gradients. Now coming to the key leads that have been emerged from the project, which have been broadly grouped into 3 clusters, that is cluster A, which addresses and consisting of 6 to 7 projects, mainly concentrate on intensification and efficiency of the resource use in production systems. So, the key findings emerged included where the demand for fruits, flowers and fruits by the growing urban population has translated the production system from the traditional to more input intensive crop production, thus compelling the farmers so as to use more of these chemical fertilizers, and further led to what we call the over exploitation of the soil, as major shift was towards the soil being divide of major nutrients which are exploited by this exhaustive crop production system being adopted by the farmer because of the assured market in the urban areas. And also through application of fertilizers in the intensive cropping system is being taken up by the farmers, but that have been uptaken by this what you call the more intensive crops, and also the complex soil reactions which makes unavailable besides leaching down into the groundwater and also the different water bodies that are existing in the surrounding areas, and this has led to the deteriorated soil properties and imbalance in the availability of the nutrients. And also urbanization has tends to pollute water bodies in the vicinity as compared to the rural areas. And also there is a problem of heavy contamination above the critical level, especially with respect to the major metals like cadmium, chromium, nickel and lead. So also the study observed sewage flow of entire city towards the south transact, whereas the dry waste and sludge is dumped in the northern parts, which again led to the accumulation of these heavy metals in the water bodies of the both the transacts of north and the south of Bengaluru. In addition, about 322 feed ingredients and the diets which have been fed to the dairy animals were analyzed for the chemical composition, total gas and the methane production, and the methodology used by that NIANP included laser methane detection techniques, which was validated with the SF6 in cattle and sheep as proxy method for quantification of the methane emission, and the life cycle assessment for the greenhouse gas emission from selected dairy farms was carried out, and the model for determining this LCA was developed. So these are the major findings in the cluster A project. Coming to the cluster B, which concentrates on ecology, economy and service exchanges, the important points emerged included the changes in the agroecosystem influence the diversity of the native plant species, and these changes are largely due to the different cultivation practices adopted and more intensive in nature compared to the native crops. The agroecosystems along the gradients of Bengaluru, a total of 208 plant species belonging to totally 63 families were recorded, and the rural gradient has shown the recorded the highest number of plant texta, that is 151, followed by urban and transition zones. Out of the 208 plant species, 20, 18 and 31 species are very unique to these urban, transition and rural areas respectively, and the herbs share the highest number of plant taxa, that is 74, followed by tree species of 58, grasses 30, shrubs 25 and about 21 climbers. And the larger proportion of households had a favorable attitude towards the agriculture to the extent of 42.5% in the rural areas, while in transition it is 40.42, whereas in the case of urban areas 41.21% of the households are having unfavorable attitude towards the agriculture, because in recent times this agriculture is not turn out to be very profitable because of the increasing cost of production, cost of cultivation, as well as what you call the too much exploitation by the middleman in the marketing system. And coming to another part of the project of this social science by the agriculture extension, most of the decision in agriculture as well as household activities are done or taken up by the both husband and wife together. And coming to the other component of this cluster B, where it has addressed the issues of this livestock and animal husbandry, wherein the indigenous bovine population has decreased in all the gradients in both the transact, and the crossbreed cow population has increased in rural areas, interestingly, because it is the major source of livelihood, whereas in transition and urban areas the population of this crossbreed cows is decreasing because of the non-availability of certain what you call very essential nutrients like land, water and the feeds, fodder, etc., etc. So the participation of women was found to be relatively dominated and compared to the men in discharging all the activities relating to dairy sector. Coming to the cluster C, which again consisting of 3 to 4 projects addressing the various issues of patterns of land use, social fabric and consumption issues. So there has been a pioneering work in the area of field margin vegetation, which showed a decrease in both plant diversity and field margin cover over the time. but however there is an increase in the vegetation cover in the study area. And based upon the dietary daily calorie intake, it was attempted to quantify the actual and the dietary calorie intake among the sample households in both the transacts and three gradients. It was observed that 75.15% of the households were food secure and remaining were insecure in south transact, whereas it is relatively higher, about 83% in the northern transact, and this range from 63% in the rural areas to 83% in the urban gradients. And urban households were relatively better food secured than in the transition and rural areas. The dietary profile analysis of calorie intake revealed that the kilocalorie consumed per consumption unit per day ranged from 2209 kilocalorie per consumption unit per day to 2261 in the case of North Transact, whereas it ranged from 2194 kilocalorie per consumption unit per day to 2311 kilocalorie per consumption unit per day in North Transact. So the higher calorie intake was mainly met from cereals, followed by edible oils, milk and milk product across all the gradients. And there is a prevalence of underweight in rural area to the extent of 14.2% and overnutrition in the urban area defeated by overweight to the extent of 24.5% and obesity among 30.5%, indicating prevalence of double burden of malnutrition across urban rural interface of Bengaluru. And in addition, this urbanization had a direct impact on nutritional status of the woman. As we move across gradient from rural to urban areas, the magnitude of obesity increased to the tune of 33 and 42% in south and north transact respectively because of their lifestyle and less physical activity among the women in urban areas. Based upon the findings of these 15 projects in India, the scientist opined and gave certain what you call the implications from the findings of the study. They express the need for adoption of region specific cropping pattern for improving the yield and returns, in turn livelihood with reduced usage of chemical fertilizers. So the development and promotion of crop specific multi-nutrient fertilizer mix and the soil test based fertilizer recommendations are need of the hour. Secondly, for the adoption of university released recommended package of practices for sustaining agriculture productivity, native biodiversity and the environment. And then for urban planning to integrate the food safety policies with soil and water pollution management policies so as to arrest the deterioration of the natural resources such as water and soil, which will have a long lasting irreparable implications on the environment, human health as well as livelihood security or need of the hour. And also cereals have constituted for a major share in the food expenditure. That is why interventions are required to educate so as to bring changes in the existing purchasing behavior so as to reduce the gap between recommended dietary allowances as well as intake so that they can adopt more balanced diet. So for creation of awareness regarding the importance of consumption of nutrient rich food and maintaining balanced diet among rural women who are prone to underweight and overweight and obese is the problem with urban women because of their change in lifestyle and less physical productivity. There is a need for regular and continuous training and awareness program which can be attempted through existing primary health centers and women and child development department. Thus, the entire phase 1 and phase 2 of this Indo-German project are mainly focused on the spatial as well as the temporal dimension. As in the first phase, we have concentrated on only spatial dimension by conducting study in 3 gradients of rural, transition and urban, whereas in the second phase, we started from the year 2021, March 19, also taken into consideration of temporal dimension by collecting the data from the same set of respondents. However, we have missed to collect the information from few households as they have been moved during this era of COVID from their earlier existing places. Thus, the findings of this collaborative project are expected to provide a much needed solution to the problems arising in agriculture, ecology and livelihood because of this urbanization, and thereby helping in formulating the appropriate policies so as to support the households through different developmental programs and schemes of the state as well as the central government. Besides, it can aids in the local and urban planners and developmental departments in evolving suitable measures so as to strengthen the livelihood security of the households in rural urban interface of Bengaluru. Thank you.